I'm sure you've had this happen. You were out somewhere, maybe on the street or in a cafe or at a bar, and you saw a girl, and your eyes popped out of your head, and you just said, wow. But then you didn't do anything. You didn't approach, you didn't say hi, you just let her go. How do you get around this and start meeting the girls you like? That's the subject of today's lesson. I think the first thing to understand is that approach anxiety is real and it's widespread. University of Bristol ethologist John Crook noted back in the 1970s that men are hesitant to approach a female without substantial eye contact and non-verbal indications of interest. Why do you think this phenomenon exists?
Well, there are different theories on why that could be the case, but I think personally, if you take a look at guys that are feeling this nervousness around approaching women that haven't given them that green light, it mostly just seems to be some degree of conditioning where guys are fearful of, if I go up to her, am I going to get a bad reaction, and is that going to make me lose my own self-confidence and self-esteem, or could that cause me to lose face socially? I have known some guys that never experienced this kind of approach anxiety, and usually these are guys that kind of got off to a good early start. Maybe they started talking to girls when they were really young and always had positive experiences at the start, and so they never developed this fear of there's going to be a negative effect. But for most guys, this approach anxiety is a real thing, and it seems to be a mix of fear of losing their chance with this girl. If I go up and I say something wrong, do something wrong, maybe I'm going to mess it up with this girl that I otherwise could have gotten, so I don't want to mess it up. So they start putting pressure on themselves. And then the other one is just looking bad socially, losing face, or getting that self-esteem hit.
It seems kind of a high bar to put it. Only girls that give you long eye contact that you approach, you know, that certain girls of certain countries, they just will never do that, I think, so.
Yeah, it can limit you a lot.
Yeah. So this substantial eye contact and nonverbal indications that Crook talks about, do girls give this out all that often?
It depends somewhat on the culture, on the setting, if you're meeting her in a big city or a small town. But it also depends on, you know, if you're a guy that has good fundamentals already built up, if you've turned yourself into a more attractive man. Another thing to keep in mind, though, is that a lot of girls do give these signals out fairly often, but men often aren't aware of them, because when girls are giving out these signals, they do them in a way that's ambiguous, so that just like the guy wants to save face by not going up and getting rejected, the girl also wants to save face by not putting herself out too much and then having the guy reject her. So there's this dance where both people are trying to not save face, so nobody's making it super clear of what their intentions are. So girls will tend to give signals fairly often to guys, but a lot of times guys don't notice them.
Are there some guys that don't get invitations like this, or do all guys get them?
So I've seen, you know, I've been coaching this stuff for a long time, and I've seen a lot of guys come in who say, girls never give me approach invitations. And whenever I've coached guys out in the field, where I take a guy out to like a bar or a nightclub or out on the street or wherever, I found that pretty much every guy, even guys that have terrible fundamentals and, you know, the guy's he's overweight and he dresses poorly and, you know, he's not taking care of his image at all, you know, his posture's no good. You get him out there, and you can usually find at least a couple of girls that are kind of looking at him, checking him out, giving him these signals, but usually the guy doesn't realize it at all. And you can point it out to the guy and be like, hey, that girl's looking at you, and he'll be surprised and he'll say, what? You know, he's not noticing that. And you send him in, you go get him to go talk to her, and then she's really happy, she's bubbly, and she's excited to be talking to him, and he comes back, he's really excited. Wow, it was really easy, like, you know, she was giving you signals that she wanted to talk to you, that's why it was easy. But a lot of times guys think that, you know, no, I'm not attractive, no girl would ever signal me to approach her, but much of the time that's the guy's not paying attention to it, or he may even have kind of this self-defeating thing where he thinks that girls aren't interested, so any signal that he gets, he's just reinterpreting that as, oh, she's just being friendly or whatever, when in fact it is attraction. But pretty much every guy I've seen, even like ugly, schlubby guys or whatever, gets some degree of invitations from girls to come up and talk to him.
So you really got to keep an eye out because they're there.
Exactly.
So when you're out and you get that feeling of, wow, I should approach that girl, is that spontaneous, or are you responding to something that's there that the girl does?
So a lot of times you're going to think that's spontaneous. You're going to think, I just saw this beautiful girl and it was just stunning. but much of the time it may not be, or perhaps even the majority of the time it may not be. In 1985, Monica Moore, a psychologist at Webster University, went out and did a study where she looked at 200 different women in 4 different environments. So she looked at women in singles bars, in university snack centers, in university cafeteria, and at a women's center hall. And what she was looking for, what she had observers look for, were different signals that women might give out that could potentially signal to a man to come and approach. And they're looking at a couple of different things. One, do women still put out these signals when they're surrounded by just women in this women's center? And they found that they don't. They only put them out in environments where there are men around, like the snack bar or the university bar. And they also found that whenever women put out these signals, the independent observers, and I think they mostly had women looking at other women writing down when they saw these signals, that every girl that was putting out enough clear signals got approached by a guy at some point. And every single girl who got approached, she would get approached sometimes by multiple guys, but she would accept a date with at least one of the guys. So these girls were triggering these approaches. And they also found that the women who were not putting out signals almost did not get approached at all. So it was kind of night and day. The girls who put out the signals got approached. The girls who didn't put out the signals did not get approached. So it seems to be that for the most part, when you are getting this sensation of, wow, I've got to go meet her, most likely what happens is she triggered that herself by giving you a signal, whether you realized it or not. And a lot of times these are so under the radar that, and they're designed by girls to get the guy to notice her without knowing that she's doing something. She wants you to feel like you're taking the initiative, but most of the time she's the one that's triggering that sensation.
I know you cover all the ways girls signal men to approach, and there's about 40 of them in your course. And I know you really break down what guys should say and do when they first walk up to girls. But for now, without all those tools, if a guy isn't sure exactly what to say, do you recommend he holds off until he figures this out?
No, not at all. I think the most important thing for guys is that they get out and get in action. And, if you have more information, that's helpful. If you know what you're doing, that makes it easier for you to spring into action. You can be more confident. You know what you're going to go do. And then once you're in it, you're less likely to make mistakes because you're able to say, okay, I have some ideas about what I should do next. But the most important thing is that you start going out and talking to girls that you like the looks of now, so that you can start putting yourself out there more. Because, a lot of it is skill. And, if you do get the course, then you're going to get all those tools and all that information. So you're going to know the different signs to look out for, or the different ways to approach and things that you should say. But there's also an element of it that's luck. And no matter how many tools you have, if you're not putting yourself out there, then the odds that you get lucky and meet some great girl are pretty much zero, because you're not going to meet her sitting in your bedroom or staring at the computer. So the most important thing is just that you get out there and that you start getting those experiences and giving yourself those opportunities with girls. And then you can add in the tools and the signals that you've learned and all the different things that you can say and do differently once you're out there and you're meeting girls.
So is it irrational if girls signal you to approach and you get nervous about it anyway?
Well, I think the thing to consider is that it seems to function a lot like, a phobia almost, like a fear of heights or a fear of spiders or whatever. So there is some degree of real danger there. Obviously, you don't want to fall off the top of a building.
Yeah.
You don't want to get bitten by a black widow or a brown recluse. If you ever see those, they're like really nasty spider bites. If a recluse spider bites you, you got to go to the hospital and stuff. But, so if you go up and you approach a girl and she gives you a terrible rejection, you may get a big self-esteem hit, or, maybe everybody in your social circle is going to make fun of you for a couple of weeks. So there is some risk there. But at the same time, the fear is overblown in most guys that have this fear. They're blowing it way out of proportion in their heads. So there's a basis in some degree of real rational fear, but it's blown out of proportion into a realm where you could consider it maybe a little bit irrational. So the thing to keep in mind about it is just that it is a somewhat irrational fear, and that the only way that you overcome it is by confronting it and going out and talking to girls and forcing yourself to realize that, girls really aren't as dangerous as I've been making them out to be. Actually, some of them are pretty cute and sweet.
Okay, so today we want to discuss 3 things that allow you to meet girls, right? The first of these being sociable. How does sociability help you to meet girls?
Well, if you look around and you notice most of the guys that you know naturally in your social circle or wherever who are pretty good with girls, one of the things you'll notice that nearly all of them have in common is that they're just sociable guys. They just go up and they talk to people. They talk to guys, they talk to girls. They talk to people wherever they are. They talk to them in parties, clubs, at networking events, at school, at work. Wherever they are, they're talking to people and just being sociable, and they're just interested in people. And one of the things that sociability allows you to do, as far as dating is concerned, is it allows you to ping lots of different people, and in particular lots of different girls. And once you're talking to a girl, she's going to start to give you signals if she's interested in you. She'll show you more attention, she'll smile more, she'll show more of her body toward you, position herself toward you. She'll start to play with her hair. She'll start to ask you about yourself, ask you questions. She'll stop whatever she's doing and focus her attention on you. So all these little things. And if you're a sociable guy, you're getting all these different touch points with women. And some of those women will not respond that well to you. And that's okay, because you're just being sociable. But then when a girl does respond well to you, if she's also a girl that you find attractive, then right away you've got a girl that now you can move things forward with. You can get to know more about her. You can take her phone number. You can set up a date with her. And just because you're being sociable, you're going to tend to run into girls like this again and again. So this is one of the easiest ways to start going out and bringing more women into your life, is just by being that more sociable, more outgoing guy.
But what if you're a quieter guy? Does this one still apply?
Yeah, definitely. To an extent, it's really just a habit. Some of the most sociable guys I've known have privately confessed to me that they're introverts and that they still get drained socially by going out and being outgoing. But it's just a habit that they get into. One of the most sociable guys I met was this really quiet guy that I met on an airplane, and he would just go out and socialized with all these different people, and he got really like important jobs high up in companies by going out and socializing with all these business people. And he's just a really unassuming guy, really quiet. You wouldn't see him that way, but he was that way. And guys I've known who've been really good with girls have been guys that normally, you get them one-on-one in a conversation and they'll sit there for 20 minutes, and it takes a really long time to get them to warm up. But they can go out and be sociable, and they meet women that way. So you can absolutely do it as a quieter guy if you have the determination to go out and go and make yourself into a more sociable person.
Number 2 on our list is warm-ups. What makes warm-ups so useful to meet other girls?
Well, the thing with warm-ups, so what a warm-up is a lot of times when guys go out, if they say, okay, I'm going to go talk to some girls today. Then they go out and they put a huge amount of pressure on themselves because they see a girl and they say, okay, that girl right there, I've got to go talk to her and get a date with her. That girl, I've got to go get her phone number, and then I'm going to take her on a date and we're going to make love and she's going to be my girlfriend. And suddenly there's this huge pressure like, oh my God, I better not mess up, because if I say the wrong thing, how is she going to become my girlfriend? So as soon as you feel that pressure on yourself, then you're second guessing yourself. You're trying to figure out exactly the perfect thing to say, and that's impossible because there's really no perfect thing to say. So the way that warm-up approaches get around that is you take all that pressure off yourself, and you say, the first 3 girls that I talk to today are just going to be warm-ups. Just going to say hi to some girls, make a little light chit-chat, and it's just going to be a warm-up just to get me into the habit of being a sociable person. So you're going to go out and you do that. And by the time you've done 3 or so warm-up approaches like that, by the end of it, you'll be feeling pretty good. You're going to be feeling a lot more sociable. And at that point, you can go up and talk to a girl and commit to more of an interaction. And sometimes you'll go up and you'll do a warm-up and it just kicks right off. And suddenly now this is a girl that you end up taking on a date, or you end up taking her home. But most of the time, you just treat a warm-up as a way to warm yourself up socially, so that then you can go talk to more people, you can go talk to more girls, and you don't have to worry about having all this pressure on yourself as you do it.
So the warm-up may not just be a warm-up.
Yeah. Sometimes it won't be, but you should always think of it as just a warm-up, because otherwise then you get into that pressuring yourself habit again.
That's a good tip. Okay, so if you see the gorgeous girl, is she just a warm-up? Or should you do some warm-ups before you go and talk to her?
Well, it's a good question. It depends on what the setting is. So, if you see her on the street and you're never going to see her again because it's a big city, then just go warm up on her anyway. Just keep it in consideration that you'll probably see some other gorgeous girls throughout the day, or at least throughout the week. So just go up and warm up to her, and who knows what happens. If you're in a more of a social venue where it's more of a captive audience and you're floating around, you're going to see her again later anyway, then in that case, yeah, go ahead and go warm up on a couple of other girls. Then you can wind your way back around to her once you're feeling a little more socially lubricated. Then the exception would be if you're already really close to her. Sometimes it makes sense to just say hey and ask her how her night's going or how's your day going and make a little bit of chit chat, and then you can leave and go talk to some other people and really warm up, and then you can come back later. And now that you've already talked to her earlier, a lot of times you'll have a warmer transition into resuming that conversation.
That's great advice. We have lots of options and ways to approach it. It's not just all or nothing.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Okay, and our third item is to just get your feet moving toward her. How does that work?
Well, all this is, you know, if you've got a lot of anxiety, if you just can't get yourself to go up and talk to people, in particular if you can't get yourself to go up and talk to girls, whether that is because you haven't taken the time to make yourself a sociable person, it's too scary, or it's too difficult for you to learn right now, or you just can't get yourself to go up and do those warm-up approaches. For whatever reason, you can't get it in your head that this is just a warm-up, no matter how you try and think about it. This is still this beautiful girl, and you can't help thinking about her in any other way other than this high-pressure way. Then the last most effective thing I have for you, and this is how I started myself when I was just really nervous with girls and terrible with women, was that you just say, okay, you know what? Screw my fears. I'm just going to start walking my feet over towards her. And whatever happens when I get there, that's what happens. In my case, it was just, okay, well, I'm too nervous. Okay, I'm just going to start moving my feet over. And then and the first few times I did that, I would just walk up to the girl and like smile at her. And then the girl would look at me and say hi herself. So even if you're too afraid to say hi, if you're walking up to her, if you don't look like a serial killer, then many times the girls will just say hello to you themselves. Or you can just say hi. And the point is just to get you comfortable enough walking up to a girl and saying at least those initial pleasantries that you realize the girl's not going to bite your head off. And then you can start to feel more comfortable doing it. And you can have some more substantial conversations after that.
Right, and once you're there in front of her, then you're more likely to take the next step rather than being far away.
Yeah, that's the scariest part, is walking up in the first place.
Right, great. So this sounds very simple, but does it actually work?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go out and do it, and you know, keep in mind that the biggest part is getting over that anxiety. Once you can get to the point where you feel more comfortable around women, it gets a lot easier. And a lot of that just is exposure, going up and talking to enough girls that you get comfortable being in their presences.
All right, so what homework do you have for the guys in this lesson?
Well, for this lesson, what I'd like you to do is I'd like you to pick one of those three items we talked about today. So it's either being more sociable, or it's doing some warm-up approaches, or it's just moving your feet toward her and going up and saying hello. So pick one of those three, and I'd like you to start doing that and start using that to go out and talk to people, and especially going out and using it to talk to pretty girls.
Today, we discovered it's normal to feel nervous about talking to girls. Yet at the same time, when you see a girl you do want to talk to, often it's because she signaled to you first. We gave you 3 tools to use to allow you to go up and meet girls anywhere. The first was just to be more social with everyone. The second was to use warm-up approaches. And the third was to adopt a mentality of just get your feet moving toward her. I hope you found this lesson useful. Over the next few days, we'll send you a report on the mistakes men make in dating and a book on that most elusive of qualities, confidence. Be sure to tune back in a few days for our final video and this mini course wrap-up, where we talk about psychology's reward theory and attracting and sleeping with girls. I'm Jerome, here with Chase Amante, and we'll see you soon.